A new poll of Iowa Republicans over the weekend spells trouble for Mike Pence and his already long-shot candidacy for the Republican nomination. The poll put Pence in 6th place with just 4% of the vote in the state, more than 40 points behind poll leader Donald Trump. And that wasn't even the worst thing in the poll for him. The worst thing was this. Almost 4 in 10, 37% of Iowa Republican voters said they would never vote for Pence. That was 15% higher than said the same of any other candidate, which was Trump at 22%. Now, it's not just in Iowa where Pence is having problems either. According to the Washington Post, he has still not crested the 40,000 donor threshold to qualify for next month's first presidential debate. A remarkable sign of weakness for a man who spent 4 years as the vice president of the United States. As the Post reported, and I'm quoting here, while Pence's advisors are emphatic that he will make the debate stage, the mere uncertainty is emblematic of the early challenges the Indiana Republican is confronting in his nascent campaign. Pence has struggled to gain attention or traction by running a traditional and low-key conservative campaign in a race dominated by firebrands like Trump and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Yes, to all of that. Pence raised just over $1 million for his campaign in the month or so he was in the race, massively behind the likes of Trump and DeSantis, but also well back of Nikki Haley and Tim Scott. Hell, unknown North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum raised more than Pence in the second fundraising quarter. Yes, Doug Burgum. Now, none of this really should come as a surprise if you've been paying attention to the race. Pence is a man caught betwixt and between. He is desperately trying to run as a Trump conservative, touting the time he spent in the White House and what was accomplished therein. The problem with that logic is that Trump turned Pence into enemy number one for the Republican base, casting him as a villain for opposing the overturning of the 2020 election. Remember that rioters in the US Capitol were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." Yeah, that happened. Trump's relentless campaign to cast Pence as the man who betrayed the Republican base has honestly worked. That explains why 4 in 10 Republicans in Iowa say they would never vote for a man who, by all accounts, followed the letter of the law on January 6, 2021 by certifying the Electoral College vote. He really did nothing wrong. Pence almost certainly knew these challenges when he was thinking about running for president, and he likely decided that, despite those hurdles, he would run anyway, likely because if he didn't run now, he'd be 8 years out of office in 2028 and look very much like yesterday's news. It's worth noting here, Pence will also be 69 years old in 2028. But Pence likely believed he could overcome those challenges with an appeal to social and evangelical conservatives who have long been his base within the Republican Party. Now, the problem there is that a calculation like that is entirely based on the pre-Trump version of the Republican Party, where A, an evangelical lane exists, B, that lane was prized, and C, that lane could win someone the Iowa caucuses. That all changed when Donald Trump won the Republican nomination in 2016. And it doesn't look like it's going to change back anytime soon, and certainly not over the lifetime of this campaign. In short, Pence's campaign is dead. He just doesn't know it yet. The real questions for Pence going forward are as follows. 1, when does he get out of the race? And 2, who does he endorse when he gets out of the race? So on the first question, I've said repeatedly in the past about how critical it is to get out of the race at the right time. That's especially true in this race where Trump is the dominant force and all the other candidates are vying to be his alternative. The longer Pence, and while he doesn't have a ton of support, he still has single-digit support nationally and in early states, the longer he stays in the race, the harder it is to consolidate support behind a non-Trump candidate. It's just a few percentage points that don't go to that candidate. Now, of course, I'll note here that at this rate, Pence's hand may well be forced. With such paltry fundraising numbers, it's uniquely possible he simply runs out of money and has to bow out of the race immediately and can't do it strategically at all. My guess is that Pence is pushing like crazy to qualify for that first debate. If he can't get to the 40,000 donor threshold, his campaign is over. Even if he does qualify for the debate but fails to generate any real excitement behind his candidacy, I would guess he's out in September or at the latest early October. The question of who, if anyone, Pence might endorse when he drops out is sort of an intriguing one. Presumably Trump is off the table given, the whole stolen election thing. The obvious choice then, given Pence's social conservatism and penchant for optimism, is Tim Scott, who shares both of those things. The South Carolina senator has also begun to make waves in Iowa and New Hampshire. He's been to double digits in both states. So would a Pence endorsement help Scott? Sort of, in that it would signal the donors and activists looking for a Trump alternative that Scott, not DeSantis, is their best choice. At this point, and given how poorly he has started in the race, that may well be the extent of Pence's legacy and footprint. So what? It's a remarkable come down for a man who stood one heartbeat from the presidency for 4 long years.